After being sent to prison by my husband, I died a tragic death there. My organs were sold off completely, and my empty husk was discarded in the back mountain, devoured entirely by wild dogs. For years later, my husband finally remembered me, but only to have me donate a kidney to his first love. However, my kidney had long been inside her body. For years ago, Ethan sent me to prison on the grounds of attempted murder, claiming it was to teach me a minor lesson. No matter how I explained that I wasn't even present, even kneeling on the ground begging him in the end, he was convinced that I was scheming to kill his first love, Snow, out of jealousy. Life in prison was harsh. Ethan had specifically arranged for me to be locked up with the most vicious inmates. On my first day, my teeth were knocked out, and blood filled my mouth, spilling from the corners before I could swallow. They casually stepped on my head, and any attempt to struggle only brought more vicious beatings. Not long after being locked up, I was tortured to death. When Ethan finally remembered me and came with bodyguards to see me, I had already been dead for 3 years. He frowned as he entered the reception room, which seemed especially chilling in winter. Later, regardless of whether she agrees, tie her up if necessary to make her sign the donation consent form. He disdainfully surveyed the surroundings. What kind of hellhole is this? Why isn't she here yet? Tell them to hurry up. After waiting a long time, the bodyguards finally brought someone to the door. But it wasn't me, it was the boss of our cell. Mr. Ethan, sorry for the wait. I wanted to bring Summer, but... But what? Ethan's expression suddenly darkened. She won't even come to see me? If she hadn't ruthlessly pushed Snow off the cruise ship back then, Snow wouldn't need her kidney. It's not like that. Summer might not be able to come see you. The boss wiped away cold sweat. There was an unexpected situation. Ethan's expression grew more impatient. Is she comfortable staying here? Tell her, as long as she's willing, she can stay here as long as she wants. He disdainfully waved his hand, gesturing like swatting a fly for the boss to hurry and call me. But he couldn't see that my soul was hovering above him, bitterly watching his cold expression. The boss didn't move, and Ethan, seeing her timid and evasive demeanor, immediately frowned. What? Does Summer really not want to see me that much? The boss quickly denied. No, it's that Summer isn't here anymore, she can't come see you. Of course I wasn't there. Apart from my invisible soul, my body wasn't there either. On the day I died, they thought I was unlucky and threw my body out. By now, my body had probably long been digested into fertilizer by some beast in the mountains behind. Ethan clearly didn't believe the warden's words. He sneered and had the bodyguards watch the boss. He began searching the cells one by one in the building himself. There were many prison cells. He went through them one by one, his face growing uglier. He called the guards to check the roster repeatedly 3 times, but my name was still nowhere to be found. His face grew increasingly grim as he sternly questioned the guard. I said no one is allowed to let her out, right? What did you take my words for? The guard had taken plenty of money from Ethan. How could he dare defy him? Back then, I was tortured skinless by those perverts, kneeling on the ground begging them to let me go, but none of them softened for a moment. Even as I knelt and cowed out in tears, they didn't spare me. Ethan sat down with a cold face, ordering the guard to bring me before him within 3 minutes. The guard had no choice but to brace himself and tell the truth. Mr. Ethan, I'll tell you the truth, Summer died long ago. I guarantee she died miserably. The bed was covered in her blood. There wasn't a single intact spot on her body. I even left that room uncleaned. On the day she died, we threw her body into the back mountain. Ethan didn't believe such words at all, his expression growing more impatient. What benefit did Summer give you? To let her go and cover for her? She harmed Snow, leaving her weak now. Can she avoid responsibility like this? You dare team up with her to deceive me? The guard repeatedly explained. No, not at all, Mr. Ethan. I wouldn't have the guts. I absolutely didn't deceive you. To prove his words, he hurriedly pulled out a photo. I specifically took a photo at the time. Please don't spread it. Ethan impatiently looked over, and the moment his gaze fell on the photo, his pupils suddenly contracted. The photo showed a twisted figure. She lay naked on the bed, her spine twisted into an exaggerated arc, her body covered in unhealed whip marks and cigarette burns. Her upturned face was full of bloody scratches, her former appearance barely discernible from the eyes, her open mouth was a dark void, all teeth pulled out. Her slender fingers were bloody and mangled, nails seemingly pulled out alive. It looked like a long-dead corpse. Ethan stiffened entirely, his eyes widening uncontrollably. But soon, he composed his expression. This is special effects makeup, right? It's done really well. At first glance, it really looks like summer. Do you take me for a fool? Isn't this place just about eating, drinking, exercising daily, at most solitary confinement? How could she suffer such severe injuries? Besides, if injured like this, why not send her to the hospital? The makeup is so exaggerated, it's obviously fake. I snorted coldly. As expected, in his mind, all my pain and grievances were pretend, and even with evidence in front of him, he wouldn't change his view. Clearly, it was the people he arranged to take care of me, yet now he acts completely unaware. If not for him, how could I have died here in such pain and humiliation? During the last brutal beating, I couldn't hold on anymore. I knelt on the ground, clutching the iron bars, begging the guard to call him, even just send a message. But Ethan coldly replied, if she's going to die, let her die sooner, don't disgust me. Even so, even though Ethan had abandoned me, I still wanted to live. I was only 23. I kowtowed to the warden, to the inmates who mocked and beat me. I heard the cheap floor banging from my kowtows, blood from my forehead mixing with my tears and the floor's dirt into a pool of dark red viscous liquid. I felt I couldn't lift my head anymore. A guard opened the door and stepped on my head. I heard their unrestrained loud mockery. Isn't this woman supposed to be a top student from B University? So spineless? Hey, worthy of B University, her kowtows are louder than the previous ones. The boss couldn't bear it and said to me, Summer, it's not that I won't let you go, even if I did, it wouldn't help. There are no hospitals within hundreds of kilometers. Do you have money? How would you go? You don't even have an ID. Even if you got to a hospital, you couldn't get treatment. Accept your fate. Surviving is your destiny, not surviving is also your destiny. In the next life, remember to keep your eyes open and find a good person. After saying that, she waved her hand, and the surrounding people advanced with sinister smiles, their faces distorting before my eyes. Before I could catch my breath, a flying kick came, and I heard the crack of my bones breaking. I had no strength left to struggle and couldn't help but smile bitterly. Forcing down the surging blood foam, I thought, this is it today, I'm really so tired. 10 minutes later, with eyes open, I was thrown into the woods in the back mountain. Ethan glanced at the sweating guard and snorted coldly, that's enough, right? Call Summer out. Come out now, sign the donation consent, and besides letting her go, I can give her 100,000 yuan. 100,000. I thought I was numb, but hearing this number still made me smile bitterly. Ethan spent lavishly on Snow, not to mention those globally limited supercars and cruises. Even one of Snow's dresses cost far more than 100,000. And this was the price he was willing to pay for one of my kidneys. So, he wasn't inherently cold, his coldness was only toward me. For the one he loved, he could disregard everything. The guard was almost kneeling to explain that I was really dead, but for some reason, Ethan was convinced that I and the guard were teaming up to deceive him. Dead? Where's Summer's body then? Where's the tombstone? Where's the death certificate? Is one photo evidence? If you don't hand her over today, I guarantee you'll wish you were dead. With no choice, the guard led Ethan to a wasteland in the back mountain. He outlined a rough area. Mr. Ethan, her body was probably buried around here back then. Ethan sneered, dig. See the person alive, the corpse dead. I don't believe I can't find Summer. Digging up a grave was undoubtedly the greatest disrespect to the dead. The bodyguards hesitated for a moment, but seeing Ethan's determined face, they began digging. Ethan remained expressionless throughout, coldly watching the bodyguards' actions. I watched all this in pain, not understanding why he hated me to this extent. The guard closed his eyes and crossed himself nearby, seemingly afraid my aggrieved soul hadn't dissipated and would haunt him upon opening the grave. But soon, the bodyguards dug up the area, finding it empty, not even a piece of clothing. Where's Summer? The person? The body? Didn't you tell me she was buried here? Not even a bone? Don't tell me you got the wrong grave. Ethan's emotions were suppressed to the lowest point, like a fully drawn bow that would snap with the slightest touch. The guard's eyes widened in terror. Impossible. I buried her after seeing her body eaten by wild dogs. How is this possible? My body wasn't here? I was puzzled too. Ethan sneered, have you acted enough? Next, are you going to say her body was dug up and eaten by wild dogs? Fine. You're really something. Just as he was about to instruct the bodyguards on how to deal with the guard who defied him, the phone rang suddenly. Hearing the ringtone, his expression instantly softened. It was Snow. Snow, are you awake? For a moment, I couldn't control my emotions. I resented Ethan, the guard, the boss, and those inmates who beat me, but I hated Snow the most. If not for her framing me, how could I have been thrown in here? How could I have died so miserably? Snow sounded as if she was on the brink of death, her weak voice coming intermittently from the phone. Ethan, if Summer isn't willing, just forget it. I'm fine. Nonsense. Ethan urgently interrupted her. This is all what Summer owes you. If not for her, how could you be bedridden? How could you have kidney failure from an accidental infection? Back then at the seaside, you saved me. Without you, I would have died long ago. Summer matching means it's heaven's will. Even if I have to dig 3 feet deep, I'll find her for you. Seaside? I was somewhat stunned. Snow sounded puzzled. Dig 3 feet? Why say that? Did something happen? Ethan told her about my disappearance. Disappeared? Snow sounded even more puzzled. That's impossible. I received a message from Summer this morning. She was lying. I was so angry I almost screamed, but no matter how anxious I was, I couldn't convey any information to Ethan. Snow's gentle voice sounded like a snake hissing in my ears. She said she left a message for you at her family's old house. I don't know how she got in. That house has been sealed for years. After hanging up, Ethan's eyes turned sinister again. He glanced at the still shivering guard and the empty grave, then turned and left with the bodyguards. My family's old house had been uninhabited for 10 years. This was where Ethan and I first met. Ethan entered the room with a cold face. He didn't like this place. In the dusty living room, he saw Summer's letter. With just one glance, he furiously tore it to shreds. The letter had only a few words. Ethan, you'll never find me. Actually, upon close inspection, that letter wasn't in my handwriting at all. But Ethan knew nothing. In anger, he smashed the surrounding vases and decorations to the ground. Summer. You'd better hide far away, or I'll make you wish you were dead. Watching Ethan panting heavily with red eyes, I couldn't help but shrink back. The bone-chilling cold from before death surged from my heart again. Before I could recover from the recent fear, the house door was slowly pushed open by a middle-aged woman. Seeing the person in the living room, a trace of doubt appeared on her weary face. Ethan? You dare come to the Scher family? Looking at the middle-aged woman before me, my fingertips trembled uncontrollably. This was my sister. She was only 1 year older than me, 27 this year, yet her face was haggard, and her hair was starting to gray. Seeing my sister, Ethan's eyes lit up. You know where Summer is, right? Make her come out. Hearing my name, my sister glared hatefully at Ethan. Don't call Summer's name with your dirty mouth. How do you have the face to ask where Summer is? Didn't you kill her long ago? Obviously, such an answer didn't satisfy Ethan. Yes, you're Summer's sister, of course you'd help her cover up. Ethan's eyes flashed menacingly. He reached out and viciously choked my sister's neck. Who do you think you are? The Scher family has been bankrupt for years. You dare deceive me? I just want 1 kidney from Summer. She won't die. I anxiously tried to grab his hand, wanting him to release my sister whose face was turning purple. But my hand could only pass through his veined arm repeatedly. The nearby bodyguard saw the situation was wrong and finally stepped forward to save my sister. She knelt on the ground gasping. I stood in front of her, glaring at Ethan. How could he treat my sister like this? Back when the Lin family went bankrupt and he came to our house, it was my sister who took care of him. She pitied his youth and cared for him exceptionally. It's no exaggeration to say she treated him better than me, her own sister. Ethan stared fixedly at the disheveled sister. The next second, he passed straight through my body and viciously yanked her hair. I ask you one last time, where is Summer? My sister smiled bitterly. I'll tell you one last time too, Summer was killed by you. Ethan released his hand and, under my sister's indifferent gaze, ordered the bodyguards to drag her to the window. Summer, you're here, right? I don't want to search room by room. I'll count down from 10. You'd better come out yourself, or I'll push your sister down. This is the 3rd floor, think carefully. He turned and scanned the hall, slowly pacing while counting down, 10, 9, 8, 2, 1. As the countdown ended, his emotions finally erupted, punching the coffee table. Good. Summer, you're really something. I'll see how long you can hide. I knelt before him, crying and begging him to spare my sister. But he heard nothing. As he waved to the bodyguard, I rushed toward my sister. Ignoring her struggles, the bodyguard shoved her off the 3rd floor. I only managed to catch the hem of her clothes. My sister was like a bird with broken wings. With her scream, a loud crash came. I, with bloody tears, chased her out the window, landing beside her. My sister lay weakly on the ground, her frail body trembling slightly, blood surging from her pale lips with coughs. Her eyes vaguely looked into the air, her gaze liberated toward me. Ethan walked to her side, his cold eyes showing no sympathy. Remember now? Where is Summer? My sister breathed laboriously, weakly saying, She's in the freezer on the 2nd floor, go find her yourself. Ethan sneered, I knew it, you sisters are cut from the same cloth, stubborn until death. The Schur family old house had a huge freezer room on the 2nd floor used as a warehouse. Ethan pushed the door in. Summer, come out. The freezer room was silent. Ethan rubbed his brow. Fine, let's see how you hide here. He stopped the bodyguards from helping and opened the freezer lids one by one himself. First one, nothing. Second, nothing. The 15th, Ethan opened the lid. The next second, he suddenly trembled with a pale face. In the freezer was a person, one with only half a body left. On the ice was a blood letter, with dark red writing from dried blood. Ethan, I don't want you anymore. Ethan stared at the corpse's bruised and swollen face. I gazed at my own face from the void. This was me. The blood letter was indeed written before my death. I didn't know why I appeared here, but I had fulfilled Ethan's wish. He had found me, but I had long become a cold corpse. My sister was dragged over by the bodyguards. Seeing my body, she cried out in pain. Summer. Sister fulfilled your last wish. I can finally join you, wait for me. Ethan still stared at my face. He ignored my sister's words, incredulously rubbing his eyes. Impossible, how could Summer die? But no matter how many times he rubbed his eyes, he saw only my broken, frozen face. This can't be. I clearly arranged people to take care of her. He murmured like a madman. Take care of me? I looked at him strangely. Weren't the people he arranged to care for me the culprits who harmed me like this? Why did Ethan look surprised? Ethan urgently turned and grabbed my sister's shoulders. You know, right? You must know something. How did she die? Why say you fulfilled her last wish? You saw her last, right? Please tell me. As he spoke, he actually shed tears. My sister looked at him and laughed coldly. She couldn't control her coughing. Dark red blood mixed with pink flesh fragments. Her organs were completely shattered from the fall. Ethan, you ask me? Aren't you the one who knows best how Summer died? As for the last wish, since you've seen her, I'll tell you. Ethan stared at her intently, his eyes full of longing. I looked heartbroken at the blood on my sister's mouth. Back when Ethan locked me in prison and I vanished, he claimed externally that I was just unwell and resting. My sister felt something wrong and secretly searched for my whereabouts. Whether missing person notices or inquiring everywhere, there was no news of me until she hired a private detective with money to learn my location. Unfortunately, it was too late. When she arrived, she happened to see the guard and the boss who beat me to death secretly transporting my body out to throw in the back mountain. She secretly followed them, wanting to see if the broken body was her sister. When they were far away, she dared approach me, but only saw my already cold corpse. It was then she found the blood letter I clutched until death, not letting go. One was a farewell letter to Ethan. The other was to my sister, my last relative in this world. At this point, my sister was already in tears. Ethan asked incredulously, "You mean what the guard said is true? Summer was really abused and beaten to death by them? She was really beaten to death alive? How is this possible? I specifically arranged people to take care of her. How could there be no news?" "Arranged people?" My sister asked bitterly. "You mean the people who killed Summer? In the letter Summer left me, it's written clearly who killed her. In the letter to my sister, I asked her to handle my affairs after death. Actually, I didn't know if this letter would reach her. I asked her to keep the farewell letter I wrote to Ethan. If Ethan came to take me home, then tell him of my death. If he came to see me for another purpose, then forget it." This farewell letter was to conclude our years of entangled relationship. I didn't expect Ethan to clear his misunderstanding of me. But I didn't expect that for this wish, my sister would hide my body in the freezer for 3 years. After hearing all this, Ethan knelt in pain. "This isn't true." He cried distortedly, "It must be Summer deceiving me. Please, come out. I was wrong, it's all my fault, come out and see me one more time." I floated in the air, watching his every expression. We had known each other early. I knew he was truly in pain and truly unwilling to believe I was dead. My corpse was still before him, he had no need to deceive himself further. But I didn't understand, weren't those who cared for me arranged by him? How could he know nothing about this? Moreover, I saw the guard call him myself. Could there be someone else pushing for my miserable death? Ethan sat paralyzed on the ground crying until my sister spat another mouthful of blood foam. Only then did he snap awake and rise to support her. "Sister, I didn't mean it, I really didn't intend to hurt you. I just thought Summer was deceiving me and wanted to force her out. I'll send you to the best hospital right away, hire the best doctors to treat you. I'll take good care of you for Summer." My sister ignored him. It was as if the last heavy stone in her heart was removed, just staring into the void with tears. Ethan immediately called the bodyguards to send my sister to his private hospital. My body had been frozen too long, identifying the injuries would be difficult and take at least some time for results. After arranging the doctors, Ethan composed his emotions and left. Seeing my sister out of danger, I also got into the car home with Ethan. I was dead and irretrievable, but at least, I wanted to know who exactly killed me. Even if nothing could change, I at least needed the truth. I followed the grim-faced Ethan, from whom water could drip, back to the villa where we once lived together. The new mistress of this villa was Snow, who framed me. She sat gently at the table, the warm light from the fireplace making her face especially soft. Seeing Ethan return, she smiled and greeted him. "Ethan's back, why so late? Have you eaten?" Seeing her, Ethan forced a smile. "My fault, something delayed me today, too busy and late to come back for dinner with you." At this, Snow said dimly, "It's all because my health is too poor, I can't accompany you." Ethan quickly covered her mouth. "What nonsense. If not for Summer pushing you into the sea then, you wouldn't be so weak. If not for you saving me from drowning in the river back then, I wouldn't be alive today. This is what I should do." I saw Snow purse her lips, seemingly nervously asking, "Speaking of Summer, did you find her?" Ethan was silent for a moment before disappointedly replying softly, "No, didn't find her." A flash of joy passed in Snow's eyes. "Snow, you wouldn't lie to me, right? At some point, Ethan had lifted his head, staring straight at Snow. Snow was a bit panicked but still firmly said, "Of course." I couldn't help but sneer. For years ago, Ethan asked me the same, I answered the same. The next day, I was thrown into prison by Ethan, but if the object was Snow. Sure enough, Ethan seemed relieved, smiling, "That's good." Just then, Snow's phone rang. It was her best friend Lana. She smiled apologetically at Ethan and answered. Lana on the other end seemed in a nightclub, shouting, "Snow! Are you free tomorrow? Let's go to the beach again. That hunk today was hot. Why don't you learn to swim? Otherwise, you two could have a mandarin duck bath." This sentence was like a drop of water in hot oil, exploding in Ethan's ears. Snow's face changed drastically. She looked panicked at Ethan. "Ethan, let me explain. Lana dragged me there." Ethan couldn't care about the hunk, his face sinister, expression nearly ferocious. He asked, "Snow, didn't you say you wouldn't lie to me? Then can you explain how, if you can't swim, you saved drowning me from the river?" I watched this from the air, thinking as expected. When Snow had the incident, Ethan asked me similarly if I had lied to him. After I swore I never lied to him, he stared at my face and suddenly slapped me. Then he bound me and sent me to prison. Watching angry Ethan and the flustered begging Snow, I found it truly ironic. This scene was so similar to what happened to me. Actually, from start to end, I didn't believe Snow had any health issues. After all, framing me wasn't her first time. This falling into the sea was obviously self-directed. How could she put herself in danger? Snow listened to Ethan's questioning with some stiffness, but after acting in front of him for years, she pretended to be relaxed. "Ethan, you misheard, she said I don't swim now." "Is that so? Then I'll take that as mishearing," Ethan sneered. "So you still went to the beach? Didn't you tell me you feared water after being pushed into the sea?" Snow looked at him pale-faced, unable to speak anymore. Ethan looked at her blandly. The bodyguards grabbed the weak-legged Snow and locked her in the basement. "You can't do this to me, Ethan. You can't." Ethan stood silently watching the woman he once loved most struggle pathetically. "Don't worry, I'll keep you, as repayment for saving me back then. But lying to me about being pushed into the sea by Summer, I'll settle that with you properly, if I find you deliberately framed Summer." As Ethan watched Snow disappear from sight, the private detective called, "Mr. Ethan, about what you mentioned, we've investigated clearly. Miss Snow's medical records over the years, whether physical or psychological, are almost all forged. Relevant doctors have confessed that Miss Snow gave them money to forge records, so your guess is correct. Miss Snow's being pushed into the sea was fabricated." Ethan gripped the phone tightly, silent for a long time before softly responding. The other side continued, "In Miss Snow's records, the parts about kidney failure are real. She does have kidney failure. However, the cause of kidney failure isn't infection, but excessive indulgence. Now, the replaced kidney has reached a critical point. Without timely intervention, it may endanger her life. For the next steps, what do you think?" This time, before the other side finished, Ethan interrupted, "Replaced kidney? Are you sure you didn't make a mistake?" Ethan could no longer stay calm. The things he always believed were overturned, and he couldn't control his emotions anymore. He asked repeatedly several times. The detective on the phone hesitated, checked the materials, then firmly said, "Yes, I'm sure about this. Miss Snow did undergo kidney transplant surgery, about 3 years ago. The scar on her body should be from then." "You didn't know? But the other body you had the hospital investigate for cause of death as the kidney donor?" I couldn't hear the rest. The phone slipped from Ethan's hand, shattering on the ground. From the smooth floor, I could even see Ethan's despairing, trembling, distorted face from the huge shock. 3 days later, Ethan cremated my body. He stood before the incinerator, weeping as he looked at my tortured, battered corpse. In these 3 days, he had people uncover the full truth. My crew's birthday party was organized by Snow. She and her friends planned everything, finding a stand-in to impersonate her jumping into the sea. The purpose was to frame me, making me leave Ethan forever. She succeeded. Ethan unconditionally sided with the one he thought saved him, mercilessly sending me to prison, ostensibly to have people educate me. But after all, we grew up as childhood sweethearts. He still worried about me, specifically arranging people to care for me in prison. After Snow knew this, she feared Ethan was only temporarily angry at me. She schemed, deliberately emphasizing care when relaying to the people Ethan entrusted, making them think care meant harshly disciplining me. Thus, Snow told Ethan I was very disobedient inside, always arguing or fighting with others. Ethan believed without hesitation. When I called him for help, he thought I was causing trouble again, rejecting me without hesitation, cutting off my last lifeline. After she first discovered her kidney failure, she ordered those people to kill me, taking my kidney for her to continue her luxurious and indulgent life. Fearing Ethan discovering her actions, Snow forged the provocative letter placed on the table in my family old house. It was to make Ethan think I had escaped and would never return to him. The truth was like the sharpest knife, stabbing deeply into Ethan's heart. I watched coldly from the sky as he ordered his subordinates to bring Snow to the cruise ship where she claimed to have been pushed off. He madly ignored her struggles and cries, intending to return all the torture and humiliation I suffered in prison to her. Ethan personally used a knife to slash Snow's face, pulled off her nails one by one, used pliers to extract her teeth alive. Finally, Ethan took out a scalpel, ordered the bodyguards to hold Snow, cut open her abdomen, and removed the kidney she stole from me after killing me. "You're not qualified to use Summer's organ," Ethan, face covered in blood, said madly to Snow. "You've used it for 3 years, it's time to return it." Snow was already on her last breath but still begged continuously, "No, Mr. Ethan, I was wrong. I wronged Miss Summer, spare my life." "Didn't you say Summer pushed you into the sea?" "Then as you wish." After saying that, Ethan signaled his men to throw her into the sea. Ethan didn't spare those in prison either. He used all his wealth and connections to increase everyone's sentences, making them torture each other and never think of getting out. What was this? Ethan's compensation to me? I didn't understand. Perhaps he just wanted to alleviate his guilt. I watched him go from utmost indifference to me to profound regret now. But I didn't feel happy at all. Perhaps, when he repeatedly sided with Snow indiscriminately, when he sent me to prison, I had already stopped loving him. In that year in prison, what sustained me was only the will to survive and attachment to my sister. From the moment I heard him tell me to die, I had no feelings left for Ethan, only indifference. When my ashes were delivered to Ethan's hands, he acted as if abandoned by me, holding my urn and crying non-stop. I was wrong, Summer, I really was wrong. I shouldn't have believed Snow, shouldn't have hurt sister, shouldn't have doubted you. Don't worry, I've avenged you, I didn't spare any of those people. He arranged people to care for my sister still in the hospital, signed the property transfer agreement, transferring all his assets to her. Then, alone with my urn, he came to the cemetery. Here was the tombstone my sister erected for me. On it, I smiled brilliantly, unaware. Ethan lifted the tombstone slab. Inside was only one of my clothes. He placed my urn inside, just about to say something, when police came in. "Mr. Ethan, we received a report. You're suspected in a prison guard bribery case. Please come with us." Ethan didn't turn back. He reached out to touch my photo, as if recalling my face. "Summer, I really miss you. The last culprit who harmed you, I'll personally account to you." After saying this, he suddenly crashed into the stone pillar beside the tombstone. Blood gradually flowed from his forehead, slowly seeping into the soil and my tombstone. I couldn't believe what I saw. Before I could react, Ethan's soul slowly floated from his body. "Summer." He looked at me and floated toward me. But my vision gradually blurred, watching myself slowly dissipate. I smiled faintly at him. "Ethan, as I said, I don't want you anymore.